If you have attempted heart rate training to improve your running, then you already know that it's one of the most difficult aspects of running with a heart rate that is maintaining a low heart rate. It can be quite challenging to control your pace, utilize your exertion, and ensure that your heart rate remains in the aerobic zone, particularly when you're new to this type of training. Doing long runs at a low heart rate are crucial for enhancing endurance as a runner, enabling you to run longer and faster durations without the exhaustion. And it is a vital skill to develop whether you utilize heart rate training to maintain a steady, slow pace during long runs, or if you prefer the Maffetone Method for building your aerobic base foundation. I would like to offer a few tips to help you become more comfortable with running at a low heart rate. Running in the summer when it's really hot and humid is very, very difficult if you're training by heart rate. It's not something that I look forward to, and it's nothing that I'm sure that none of you guys are going to look forward to. However, that's the reality of it. To regulate your body's temperature efficiently while using heart rate training, it is advisable to avoid running during the hottest time of the day, if at all possible. Opt for running in the morning or late evening when the weather is cooler. You see, when your body starts to overheat, your heart has to work harder and the blood vessels underneath your skin dilate to disperse the heat through sweating. Planning your runs during the cooler periods of the day will eliminate this factor from your concerns. In addition to the temperature, it's important to consider the impact of wind on your running performance. Strong winds can make it more difficult to maintain your pace and increase the effort required to run, specifically when running against the wind. On the other hand, running with the wind can make you feel like you're flying, but it's important to be cautious and not let the wind push you beyond your intended pace. To adjust for the wind, you just need to slow down and exert more effort to maintain your target heart rate. If possible, try to plan your route so that you're running against the wind on the first half of your run and with the wind on the second half to minimize the effects of the wind on your overall heart rate. It is acceptable to drink coffee before running in the morning. However, it is crucial to remember that caffeine is a stimulant and its effects on heart rate depend on an individual's sensitivity to it and the amount consumed. If you struggle to maintain a low heart rate while running and consume a significant amount of caffeine, it is advisable to experiment with a few runs without the caffeine. Avoid consuming caffeine for a few hours before your run and observe any differences in your heart rate. Or you can just have a cup of decaf. Now, once you're running on the road or the trail, pay attention to your breathing pattern. If you tend to breathe shallow and fast using only your upper chest, slow down and take a moment to regulate your breathing. Consciously decrease your breathing rate and focus on belly breathing to inhale a full breath of air with each inhalation. This controlled breathing technique will slow your heart rate, helping you maintain control while you're running. Dehydration can also increase your heart rate while running. As dehydration reduces your blood volume, your heart compensates by pumping blood faster to supply oxygen to the exercising muscles. Therefore, it's going to be essential to ensure proper hydration before running and carry adequate fluids while you're out running longer runs. Like a 10K, you don't need to worry so much. However, you're going longer, you're going to need it. So as a general guideline, aim to drink approximately 4 to 6 ounces, 120 to 180 milliliters of fluid every 20 minutes during your long runs. Remember to drink fluids before you feel thirsty, as thirst is a sign of dehydration. And the hormone responsible for the thirst sensation is released when the body detects dehydration. So staying well hydrated will make it easier to maintain a low heart rate while running. If you're still experiencing difficulty in maintaining a low heart rate while running, despite trying everything I've mentioned, then there is no harm in adopting a run, walk, run strategy during your runs. I did this when I first started running and it helped me greatly. By incorporating short intentional walk breaks in your run walk strategy, you can give your heart rate time to drop back down into the aerobic training zone during the walking sections. If maintaining a low heart rate is proving to be a challenge, start with a run walk pattern of 3 minutes of running and 1 minute of walking, and gradually increase the duration of your running segments until you reach about a 10-minute, 1-minute walk pattern, building your endurance gradually. If you find that your heart rate is increasing with each running block, don't worry. With a 1-minute walk break in between running sections, you will have ample time to bring your you'll have ample time to bring it back down and regain control and start running again. This run-walk approach has been used by many runners, so just do it and deal with your ego by listening to your body and having faith in the process, because it is a process and it does take time. Now, if you can't get away from hills, this can be a challenge. Ascending hills can lead to a sudden increase in heart rate, even if you've been attempting to maintain a very slow pace. The issue I've had to deal with over the past few years is that once my heart rate spikes on a hill, it can be challenging to lower it back down to the previous level before the hill. If hills are unavailable during your easy runs and you aim to maintain a low heart rate, your optimal approach is to power walk up the hills instead. Believe me when I say this, guys, your aerobic system doesn't differentiate between running and walking, but it responds to the intensity of your workout. Therefore, walking up the hills can provide an equally effective, if not better, workout, as it helps maintain the ideal heart rate for optimal heart rate training. Having knowledge of your maximum heart rate and threshold heart rate can assist you in establishing your heart rate training zones with precision and maintaining consistent training intensity. Ideally, your maximum heart rate can be determined through a VO2 max test conducted in an exercise lab. During the test, you will run on a treadmill and they will gradually increase the pace until you can't run anymore, basically. Or you could do what's known as a UBLA test. This process involves increasing the treadmill's intensity and taking blood samples through pricks to identify the point where blood lactate begins to accumulate. Using the data gathered during the VO2 max test, they can calculate your threshold heart rate and subsequently establish your heart rate training zones. Kind of takes the guessing work out of it, if you know what I mean. While it would be ideal to undergo a VO2 max test under the guidance of an exercise physiologist, it may not be feasible for everyone to do financially or logistically. The constraints may be too big. However, you can still determine your maximum heart rate and threshold heart rate using a running watch. For accurate results, it's going to be recommended that you use a chest strap instead of a wrist-based optical sensor. Additionally, selecting a flat running route would help obtain more precision in your readings. So let's begin by determining your maximum heart rate. Your maximum heart rate is the highest number of beats per minute that your heart can reach while still efficiently pumping blood through your body. To achieve your maximum heart rate, you'll need to exert significant effort during the testing process, guys. However, the good news is that this challenging part of the test typically doesn't last very long. So perform a high intensity run for 2 minutes, followed by a 1-minute walk to recover before starting the next set. Repeat the cycle 4 times. Look, to clarify, this workout involves completing 4 sets of 2-minute high-intensity runs with a 60 seconds of recovery in between each set. Now, it's important to note, when I say run as hard as you can, I don't mean sprinting maximum speed like Usain Bolt. It's rather the fastest pace that you can sustain for 2 minutes. You want to run smoothly, but really fast. After completing the workout and reviewing your heart rate data, you'll be able to see where your heartbeat reached its peak during the 4 sets. Look, it's not necessary to perform the test very frequently, as your maximum heart rate doesn't typically change significantly over time, although it does decrease as you age. And everyone's going to be different, so you're going to have to test that out. If you complete this test once per year, it's significantly enough. You're not going to have to do it more than that. So in contrast to your maximum heart rate, your lactate threshold heart rate is more prone to change in response to your training efforts, and it serves as a reliable indicator of your running fitness progress. If your lactate threshold heart rate increases over time due to training, it signifies that you can sustain higher intensities of running for longer periods before lactate levels rise significantly, causing your legs to fatigue. We all know that feeling. In other words, if you increase your lactate threshold heart rate, it allows you to run harder for longer, resulting in improved endurance. So a way to test your threshold heart rate is by performing a 30 to 40 minute threshold test, which is not as intense as a max heart rate test, but it does require sustained effort. So you want to warm up for about 15 minutes and then run as hard as you can manage for 30 to 40 minutes. This pace is slightly faster than your 10K race pace. Now remember, it's important to run hard and fast during the 30 to 40 minute test, but not sprint. You don't need to do that. When you review the heart rate data from your run, and if you take two measurements, your heart rate at 10 minutes into the test and your heart rate at the end of the 30 to 40 minutes, add those two heart rates together, then divide the sum by 2 to get the average. This average will be your lactate threshold heart rate and can be used to determine your heart rate training zones.